Epik Mellon podcast. Conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Epik Mellon podcast. I am your host, Jason Walls. I'm here with Chris Greer from Packet Pioneer, which is your company, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah. And so the entire subject of this episode is going to. I think I've touched on this before, like a couple times, but like the internet's kind of like held together with like duct tape and glue, and people don't understand that it's like a handful of the people in the universe who have enough knowledge to be able to make sure that things go.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I agree with you on that one.
And so I feel like Chris is one of those people for a number of reasons, and we'll get into that. So, as always, this podcast is brought to you entirely by the people at QA Cafe, my employers, and as such, the things that Chris and I discuss are not the opinions of QA Cafe or its ownership, but entirely my own, which is nice because I get to say whatever I want.
Yeah, there you go. Speak freely.
And it is brought to you by our three great products in network testing and analysis. And that includes CD Router, which is the industry standard for testing broadband, CPE, and Wi-Fi devices with thousands of test cases that you don't have to develop yourself, that are fully automated and can get you all the things you need to do to make better stuff for people. The second is CloudShark, which is the way for people to collaborate on and work together on packet capture and analysis while keep things secure in one place that is completely searchable with very easy to use web interfaces into the things that you have to find when there's no other place to look. And last but not least is Packet Viewer, which is the power behind CloudShark now, which allows people to OEM and install packet capture analysis into any web application on the cloud managed networking, cybersecurity side of things. Easily with very simple licensing. And it takes I've seen Zach do it. It takes like 2 steps. All right. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great today. How about you, Jason?
Good. I'm good. It's been a year, that's for sure.
Has it? I think we can all say that to an extent. But
there's somebody who was like, if you want to remember how long 2024 has been, there was an entire Olympics that everybody forgot.
You're right. It's funny. My wife and I were just in Paris and walking through some of the streets there. We went there after SharkFest, which was in Vienna, the Wireshark developer.
Yeah, what week was that?
That was at mid-November. Was it the second week in November? And we were there.
So it was like right after I was there, because I was there in early October.
Yeah, you were in Vienna, or?
Oh no, I was in Paris.
Yeah. Okay, so we on our way back to the States, we passed through Paris, and we were there for a little bit. And just walking through, to your point about everyone forgetting 2024, I was like, oh yeah, the Olympics were here like 3 months ago. Not even. It's just
right.
Things have happened so fast. It's been such a busy time. So
yeah. That's so. I mean, that you actually end up being on the road a lot, right?
A fair amount. It kind of comes in spurts, but especially around, users conferences and DEF CON, and usually it comes down to the hot months, and then the nice thing that happens for me after those types of conferences, which is the same that happened in SharkFest Europe, is make a few contacts. People see you, they want to do some training. It kind of jogs their memory, like, oh yeah, we can bring you out and actually do Wireshark training for our team on site. So usually that generates some interest, which is one of the reasons why I go, just to make those contacts and network and let people know that training is out there and available for their teams.
So talk about that a little bit. Tell me how you got to that point. Because one of the running stories on this show is that none of us got into networking on purpose, right?
Right. Yeah. That's an interesting point. I would extend that to packet analysis for me. I was in the time when right before September 11th, like in the years just before that, when they were backing up flatbed trucks to colleges and universities just hoping people would get into networking because there was such a massive need. It's like the tech bubble, and they were just hiring and hiring. And so I after going to school, I left, or I got an internship doing network engineering at a local tech company. Actually, Fluke was where I started.
Okay. Yeah.
Fluke Industrial, doing the John Fluke test instruments and stuff. And they had acquired a company and then were developing Fluke Networks at that time, which started out with just cabling, and then it went into handheld network testing, and then it went into protocol analysis. So I worked for them, and one of my roles for them was to build test systems, test networks that they could then use to demonstrate what their products did.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
And one of the first products that I worked on was, at the time, it was a company, I think, that they had acquired called Finisar, and they built Protocol Expert. Now, I think that was the right company name, but they built Protocol Expert, which Fluke Networks acquired. So they had Fluke Networks Protocol Expert. And Protocol Expert it looked very Wiresharky, or at the time, ethereal. It had a 3-pane view.
At the time, ethereal, if people want to understand just how long ago this was.
Pre-Wireshark days. 2006, ethereal got a new name to Wireshark. Mm-hmm. But at the time, so for me, I was building systems that could be used to demonstrate these tools. But in time, I started to go from network engineering, CCNA, CCNP path to, oh wow, this protocol thing is really cool. And I started getting going into support and getting calls from people in the industry that are using Protocol Expert to troubleshoot their systems, and they would just hit these problems that could only be seen at the packet level. So that's how I accidentally got into the aspect of, I went to school for networking, but I got into the protocol side. Right. Because I saw there was so many problems that we just couldn't fix.
Which is such a weird dichotomy, right? Because as you said, like, you can go through all those certifications and you still aren't really a packet analysis person. No. Right? It's like, for the most part, like, I don't think people really understand. So let me back up just for a second so I can explain to, like, my dad who listens to this show exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
hey, Jason's dad.
The internet traffic, when it travels across the internet, the information is divided up into chunks. We call those chunks packets, and there are ways that you are able to capture what's going on in the format that it's being transmitted, right? And that's called a packet capture file. It could be, it doesn't have to necessarily be a file in the context that we're talking about it. We're talking about as a thing that exists after the fact. Those are called pcaps. And there is a very, I want to say ubiquitous, but the default way that everybody has learned to sort of look at them after the fact when they've been captured is through this open source software called Wireshark. It's called Wireshark because it also does the capture piece, right? So it's literally like on the wire, but it does wireless too, but you understand the point. And so at that level, we're looking at everything that actually happened on a network interface. Everything, right? It's not just like, here's a couple of warnings. It's not just like, here's, your stats, your counters on what got dropped and all this stuff. It's literally everything that happened, like, to the point where you can actually reconstruct files and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And so there are a group of people who have become experts in that particular field, and Chris is one of those people. All right, carry on.
Nice job. I like that. I go down the whole, like, I'm a relationship therapist for computer systems. A friend of mine called it that. Like,
it is, right? Because it is,
when they don't talk, man. We're like, we do family therapy with computers, and we figure out
the number of times that I have equated sort of like certain, therapy concepts to the way that protocols interact is,
yeah. I'm a marriage counselor for applications.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, communication's breaking down. Why, and what are steps that we need to take to get the most improvement? But yeah, I mean, that was a good analogy. But yeah, it's and it's interesting too, because I think when we first getting started in this industry, it was very how do I want to say it? Like, the people, one of the reasons why, for me, part of my brand is Packet Head, because that's what we called Packet Heads, right? These are the people that could read the packets. And it was very advanced, very expert. You had to be just a storehouse of RFCs. You had to have decades of experience if you knew what you were doing. And so something that I've really has been a mission of mine personally and professionally is to make packet analysis more accessible to even entry-level people, and to talk about how you can do this you can begin in this role and start to leverage this skill set even with a very limited amount of experience. In fact, you should start, like, don't wait until you're a networking expert. Don't wait till you're CCIE
Not at
before
all.
doing packets.
Right.
Like, this should be in entry-level certifications. And in fact, I mean, for me, one that I've taken recently, which I thought was a really positive experience, was the Cisco CyberOps Associate. So associate level, so starting out their base entry level cybersecurity certification, and Wireshark was all over that thing. And I was like, yes, like, this is good. Like,
yes,
Wireshark should be all over the CCNA too.
The more people that are exposed to it, the fantastically better. And to your point, something I have talked about on the show very often is that networking, interestingly enough, has a low bar to entry, right? Because you don't have to, you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a computer scientist to start learning how protocols work. You don't.
Gamers sometimes are better network engineers. Like, if they, like, they're just at home gaming and streaming. They know more about their home networks and port forwarding and this kind of stuff. I'm amazed.
No, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. That's the only reason that, when I was 12, that's how I learned. That's the reason why I learned those things.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's where I get some of the traffic to my YouTube channel. Just people trying to, like, spy on their, like, they're not spy on their neighbors, but try to do better at a game. And they're like, hey, I got Wireshark. I'm playing this game. How can I, it's interesting that the question comes from that audience too, and to your point, you don't necessarily have to go to, 4 years of university and be in the industry for 10 years before you start doing packets. This is something you can do right now.
Yeah. So on that, to that point, how is it going?
Yeah. Oh, I'm having a great time. I think, just coming back from, let's just talk about SharkFest Europe. It was very well attended. A lot of new people that are interested in packets and using Wireshark to do so. By extension, CloudShark and other tools around it. I think that was a really positive experience because we had a lot of new people come. A lot of people were taking the pre-conference courses. That's one of the ones that I teach. I teach a 2-day pre-conference course. One day this year was on TCP/IP analysis fundamentals, and the other one was on threat hunting. So I went between those two topics and just the questions people asked. And I think just the coolness of the community, if I can use a term like that, I thought it's just encouraging to see that it's growing and not shrinking. And as people continue to encounter different problems and see different skill sets they need, Wireshark and packet analysis is still a part of that conversation. It's not all disappeared into AI yet, which I think is important.
So I want to talk about that, like, a lot.
Yeah.
So
Let's go there.
Even before AI, right? Just the idea that, like, and this and again, it really is kind of cultural, right? It's exactly what you said. It's like, or what was when we were doing the customer discovery for Packet Viewer, like, a lot of what people said was that we hate the fact that we have to look at packets, but we have to, right? And I'm in my head, I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's two different things, right? Okay, so you've acknowledged that you have to. So let's find out why you have to. That's one of the things I want to talk about. And the other is, why do you hate it, right?
Yeah.
And you hate it because it's kind of hard and esoteric. So what are all the ways that we in this community can kind of make it so that's not the case, that you don't hate it, right?
Yeah, sure. And also, how can we break down the massive assumption that there's this huge barrier of entry? That's something that I'm really advocating out there, is that, that this is fun. this is a lot. There's a lot going on here, and the example I use a lot is, it's like, hey, when you first get started, it is walking into a cockpit and looking at all the buttons and going, which ones matter. I don't have any idea how to fly this plane. There's all these charts and graphs and bells and whistles, and that red dot over there is blinking. What do I care about? How do I fly this plane? And any pilot doesn't start off learning the extended capabilities of every single button. They start off with simple fundamentals.
Right.
So I think when people, if you just try to approach Wireshark and packet analysis in general and just think, okay, how can I cut out all the noise that's on the wire and focus on what I need to understand? And for now, and grow that knowledge set. That's something that we do at SharkFest. We say, hey, we got 2 days with you. We can't turn you into an expert in 2 days, but we can really stir up your interest.
Right. And it's like it literally is everything that it contains everything, right? A PCAP contains everything, and who you are and what you're looking for is going to be very dependent on your use case. And so you can start there. You literally can just start there.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Pick a protocol and learn more about it. Literally pick one. ARP. Let's learn everything we can about ARP today.
Including why.
Why? Like what? Who cares?
Right.
Which is why I think I don't know if we're ready to dip into the AI piece yet, but I'll just repeat something I read yesterday on Reddit, and I thought it was such a good point because it was in the networking group and people were just chatting, and they were talking about how much or how like what are some of the skill sets that we need to stay relevant in networking. And somebody had a really good comment. They said, yes, automation is important. Learning Ansible, learning those tools, AI, 100%. That's important. But don't automate what you don't understand. Like,
wow,
understand it.
That's a powerful statement, right?
Yeah. Like, that's it. Like,
yeah.
Don't just copy and paste all these playbooks and hit go. And now I'm a network engineer.
Right.
And the same is true, like as we get more tools that help us to understand packet analysis, right? Like to your point, hey, I hate that I need packets and I'm scared of them anyways, which makes sense. They're scary from the start, 100%. But as AI starts to augment and help us and machine learning, and the tools that rip through 100 gigs per second and find craziness, there is an absolute place for that 100% as a packet analysis. But to understand what those tools are doing and help them and to keep them honest, we got to know our fundamentals too.
Exactly. Right. And it's not even just about keeping them honest. It's literally like, and because the reason I was saying before that it's before even AI, and I went off on a little Wireshark tangent there, but like it's dashboards, right? It's dashboards. Even before we had AI, it's dashboards, right? So it's like they're just showing you you have the ability to divine a little bit that there's something going wrong and have the application tell you that something is going wrong. But after a certain point, you're not going to be able to diagnose the problem. Now with AI, maybe you can get even further down that road, but at some point, a human being has to interact with this system.
Yeah. I mean, for the foreseeable future, for sure. Until those systems begin to be reactive to help actually address the problem, which we don't know how far off that is. But yeah, I mean, and even still, it's understanding. I think about auto mechanics. Like now if you become an auto mechanic, a lot of times it's just switch and take out the old transmission, put in the new one. But those seasoned mechanics that could put their ear to the hood and they knew what was happening, just by listening or, just by, adjusting certain things. It wasn't just about saving money and repairing something, but it's also really understanding how that thing works.
Right.
And then going, it is better to replace it. Or, for $50, we can fix this, bringing that into the networking and protocol space. It's like, where is the benefit? Like we can, looking at this packet trace, yes, if we update this piece or upgrade this piece or adjust this or, get rid of that old this and put in this, like how much will that actually benefit our experience? If we're having a performance problem, will that really will that address the root cause? Because something I get called a lot for, Jason, and how I end up getting new clients a lot of times is that they've already been through that process. They've already done the replace, reimage, reboot, upgrade. They've blown their budgets on all their new gear for the year, and they still have the problem.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. All day.
Wow.
And
interesting. So where are they getting the data in the beginning to make them think that that's what they need to do, right? Is it from these higher level things, or is it just sort of like
probably a combination? A lot of times I'll if I fly out to a customer and walk into their command center, I see all the charts and graphs and tools and analysis, and and those systems have an absolute place. There's 100%. You need that, especially as speeds and feeds grow. We can't humanly watch every packet on our networks. Our eyes can't do that. So we need these fire alarms. But once a fire alarm starts blaring, how do we understand it? What kind of triage do we do to make sure that we're addressing the true fire and not just the symptoms around it?
Right, exactly.
I think, and this is where it's interesting. I don't know, just this idea came to my head not long ago. It's like you have people that are new to the industry that are like, hey, I saw an alarm. I got to react. Hey, Google, like, what do I do? Or if someone's there to train them, if someone is there to show them what to do, well, that person is now could be handcuffed by their own experience. Last time we saw this, we did X.
Oh, right. And it just replicates itself, right?
Yeah. So then now the new person, or even that person themselves, is compounding it. That's the first step. Last time we updated blah, and we paid this kind of money, and that problem went away. That's not necessarily going to happen in this specific example too. So what kind of validation do we do before we take an action? How do we know? Like, how do we know? A lot of times when I go in with my customers, I'll just sit there in a Tiger Team war room and just ask so many questions. We replaced this. Why? What was our what led us that way? And I'm not, not to not to be a jerk or anything, but just asking what
that's legit.
Data led us that direction, or like, and a lot of times that's why I think packet analysis and learning this has been so important, because it lets us get access to the golden data set that is the packet, and then understanding what's happening at the protocol level will then steer our next steps.
Right.
It can help us to get a real understanding. No, this problem is happening because, boom, this is happening.
Right. And in some cases, it ends up finally bubbling up to the IETF or whatever, when somebody's like, oh, wait, TCP was broken this whole time. We didn't.
Yeah, or this implementation had a weird setting, or they didn't really understand what that checkbox did, or
right.
This update, so, and any number of things. So anyway, I think that's why I'm so passionate on just get started and don't worry about feeling like you need to be an expert from the jump, because at the end of the day, none of us are. We're just continuing to learn. That's why I hesitate. If anyone's like, "Oh, you're an expert," no, I'm not an expert in this. I'm just a little further down the road than many, but not. I get stuck. There's people I call. There's people I go, "Have you seen this before?" I mean, we all help each other out, which is why I think the Wireshark community is such a cool one.
Right. That's very cool. And I totally agree on the fact that it's like, we're not talking about the fact that it's like, it's making it easier for the entry level people is not about simplifying it completely from a technological perspective such that they never have to know these things. It's making it so that it's easier to know these things.
Right. And what do you need to know now? When I'm teaching a class, or if I'm engaging with some newer people to packet analysis, they'll ask questions. Understandably, we'll be going through a Wireshark trace, and they'll say, "Oh, the timestamp option in TCP, like, when does that matter?" And and things like that. I can just go, okay, for where we're at right now, don't act like the thing doesn't even exist.
Right.
Or, you know, a lot of times it's based
Window
on what they've
size.
read. Right. Window size. How often do I look for zero windows? Like, yeah, okay. Zero windows. If this was 2007 and 8 and 9, man, you and I would have been having zero window questions, you know, conversations all the time. Anymore, are they still there? Sure. It's been a while since I've directly seen it impact an application. Absolutely, they're there. Absolutely something to be aware of. Probably not the very first thing you need to know about TCP.
Right.
So let's talk about the first things you need to know about TCP. You know what I mean? So yes. We'll get to all that. But it's also learning that, which I think it makes it hard when you're when you are new to the industry. What does matter? Where's the most bang for the buck of my time?
Right.
And that's when
right. And that is in a way that is actually the function of these higher level pieces of software and intelligence, to sort of, because, and the other thing that I always wanted to sort of rant about with you is the we need to constantly capture terabytes of data from our network all the time, and we need to record everything, blah blah blah, right? And I'm like, okay, I understand that there's some legal reasons why you have to do that, but if you're talking about from a solving problems perspective, then no, that's literally it's almost a complete non sequitur. Right?
Yeah.
But what these systems do is they do help saying, and they're getting much better at it, right? Like people are actually, and I'm actually very encouraged by the fact that people are building packet capture into these solutions, and intelligently, right? So like even like Meraki has their intelligent packet capture or whatever, and there's a bunch of other companies that have a name for it, where it's like, okay, we know when we see when that alarm is going off, we're starting a ring buffer, or we're doing some sort of thing such that the data that you get is just what you needed to solve the problem. Or we are capturing terabytes of data every second, and here's automatically what you should be looking for in that huge amount of data, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think everything all the time is very difficult from a packet capture. I mean, the speeds and feeds are just so massive these days, and it also, there's a lot of dependencies right there. That's like, are you a hospital? Are you are you doing like trading on the stock market? Like, what are we doing here? And what are our legal? Because some of it is, hey, we got to have this much data back in time to, just in case we get breached, just in case we get hacked, we got to be able to go back in time. That makes sense. I mean, it's the video camera recording, for example, on your home. How far back do we need to go? To watch my house. Do I need to go back a year? Do I need last year's feeds, or is a month ago good enough? A last week? So those are always questions. But I think it is important. I think I'm encouraged when people even talk about packet capture and storage, because how often do I run into it where, ask me how many times, hey, there's a problem that happened last Monday. Man, it was super weird. We're trying to fix it, but it's gone now. Okay. Did we have anything running?
Yeah.
And so many problems these days are intermittent. They're here and gone. They're not reproducible on demand.
Right.
They can't do the thing to force it to break. It just kind of happens, and then it's not. So in those situations, we do have to do a long-term capture, and then hope we can capture it properly. But just capture to capture. Yeah, I mean, I think we need an objective. We need a purpose behind that, and just be clear on our why.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I say it kind of goes both ways, right? It's like the job of the point of my story is the job of these tools is not, it's not that the high level intelligence is useless, and and really, if you just listen to us packet capture experts the whole time, then you would have already solved your problem. No, it's like their job is to get the noise out of the way for you.
Yeah.
And that can be either before or after the fact, right?
Yes, exactly. And making it easier to find the needle. So last Monday, when Jason's email was slow, let's set a filter for Jason, set a filter for the time, set a filter maybe for that application, because maybe it was something else around it, but at least it lets us, do the DVR thing back in time, and get those packets at that time for that user. So, yeah.
And to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like what's kind of amazing to me for this is that, and what I think a lot of people don't understand is, like I was saying before, about how things are held together with duct tape and glue, but also that projects like Wireshark are open source, and they're funded indirectly from companies, right? And I think, who has technical ownership of it right now? I forget.
So that's a good conversation to have, if I may, real quick. So Wireshark is completely independent, nonprofit. The Wireshark Foundation is a completely separate organization now, which is new. It's only been in the last couple of years. Before, it was sponsored. It was held, if you will, by a different company, and it went through a few different hands. And those companies would help to support the project, keep the lights on. But now it's absolutely independent. So that said, to any listeners out there that are using Wireshark and find it to be useful in their environments, it's like donations, financial support, go to your employer.
But that's the whole thing. It's like this is so, like, this entire process and Wireshark itself is so important to how the fact that anything we're doing works, that it's like, I don't think people understand that this is basically just like a community that's keeping it running.
Oh yeah, and there's concerns. It's like this thing has almost a 1.5 million downloads a month now. That does have a cost. So it's like a few of the things. There are some sponsors directly to the foundation. There are SharkFest is one of the ways that they keep the lights on, but also donations from independent users. So and we see that when we install Wireshark. And so if you find it useful, don't be afraid to hit. Sure.
When you see that pop up, click yes.
Click it. Yeah. Show them some love, and especially too, like, even vendors, there's a lot of vendors out there that use the Wireshark dissectors or directly integrate to Wireshark. They'll say, okay, use our platform for XYZ, even using those dissectors under the hood. And then, if you want the packets too, you can kick over to Wireshark, and those relationships are starting to be built in a new way. Just to keep the project going, keep that, make sure that they're taken care of.
No, it's totally true. It's totally true. And I don't know. I feel like this, it all bubbles back up to that, to that whole idea that, people, if people find it easier and less scary, then they'll be more likely to do that because they understand. Or because I liken it to the creation of the standards themselves, right? The protocols themselves, right? It's like, technically everybody who is doing that is also a volunteer. They happen to be paid by a company, right? But there's a layer of indirection there, right? In the large part, right, in the standards organizations that I work with, right, Broadband Forum and stuff, it's actually me, right? It's like, I do get paid to do this, but if I were to change companies and our companies had similar interests, I would still be the one doing it. So it's like we end up becoming this weird community that is keeping this thing going, regardless of what's going on elsewhere around us, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I agree with that. It's super important, because if if that all went away, then, well, there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't work.
Well, a lot of stuff that wouldn't. I'd need to make a few phone calls. Anybody want to hire a packet guy? Because a lot of my, that's why it's something I really enjoy giving back to the community, because it's given me so much. It's trained me from nothing. It's, the community has been very generous with their time, their expertise. Even Gerald Combs himself, the creator of Wireshark, is such a kind and such a
he's very cool.
No, he's amazing. And and I could call him right now and say, "Hey, Gerald, I'm in a jam. I need help with this," and he'd stop at nothing to help. So that's where it's like there's some pretty amazing people out there that are helping us. If anybody, any of the listening audience too, ask.wireshark.org, ask.wireshark.org. If you have a question, if you're facing a problem, even an application of Wireshark, go out to ask.wireshark.org. It's likely that one of the core developers or someone that's heavily involved with the Wireshark community will be answering your question.
Right.
For free.
You're the people who've seen it before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm always blown away at that. If you really monetize Wireshark, if Gerald was a greedy individual, you know what I mean? So
Which we're glad, Gerald, we're glad you're not,
oh
by the
my
way.
goodness. No, he's a fantastic human being, and it's an honor to have met him. So, I mean, it's that's why it's like we need to give back and help. We need to help new people come on board and just keep the packet fires burning.
It was weird for me meeting my heroes when the first Shark Fest I ever went to. I think it was like 2012.
Oh, wow,
And
okay.
Cliff Stoll was there and gave like the keynote speech or whatever. And
Oh,
I was
really?
like, when going in there, I had no idea. I had no idea A, that he was going to be there, and no idea and B, that he was even involved with anything like that, right? I'm like, dude, your book is the reason I got into this.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my first Shark Fest too, I think 2012. We might have
Yeah.
crossed paths there.
Yeah, it was right after I started working for QA Cafe, and it was and they had just launched Wireshark like the year before, so we were doing a lot of like, you know, just me as the technical marketing guy being like, okay,
Gotcha.
let's go and listen to people, you know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's the place to do it.
Yeah, it's fun. You said post COVID, I've noticed that people actually are going to things more than they used to, right? Everybody would have thought it would have been the opposite and be like, oh, we can do everything remote. I guess we'll do that. But at least with things like trade shows, it's been a total snap in the other direction. So Sharkfest has been pretty good then, huh? It's been picking up.
Yeah, the last couple definitely, and now we're looking at Richmond, Virginia for 2025. So if anybody's
Cool.
interested in that, sharkfest.wireshark.org is where the link is, or just go to wireshark.org. You'll see a link to Sharkfest. So Richmond, Virginia, and last year was in DC. Very well attended, great interaction from attendees. Same thing with Sharkfest Europe. So, yeah, and in addition to that, something else I've been working on with DEF CON is in the packet hacking village, and getting more awareness and more packets into the the hoodie kids, as well as the the people up and coming engineers of all different experience levels. And it's I think what's exciting about that environment too, if you're ever at DEF CON, come find me. But I think to see that the packet hacking village is one of the largest villages, and it has one of the largest traffic rates, like of any of the I think that and lockpicking are two of the bigger ones. Which lockpicking is pretty fun. You can learn quite a bit. You never know.
It's very fun.
Yeah, that's a fun one. But just to see the interest, I'll just sit back in the room somewhere and just watch and just observe as people come in. It's like, who are these people? Who are coming in here? Yeah. And it's just all over the map. And I think that's a really good sign too.
That's really, really good. And like, we haven't even talked about the cybersecurity analysis thing, but like, there are valuable things that you can learn about what's wrong with your network from packet captures, but there's very valuable things you can learn about malicious attacks. And we just wrote about this a little while ago. Not just of you doing the analysis, right? Tom has a really great presentation about this that we did on LinkedIn Live, and he was talking about what's in there, like what's in your packet captures, and so not just the perspective of us doing the analysis and solving cybersecurity problems, but the way that hackers use pcaps.
Yes.
Right.
And protocols, like, what do they do? Yeah. How does that attack actually work?
Yeah.
Don't show me a pretty screen. Show me this calls this calls that, this does this does that. And then now on the flip side of that, study the event, and this is what I do in my threat hunting course. Here's a bunch of different types of attack and how they work. Now then let's put on our blue team. Here's how we can set a bunch of filters and the types of things that we can watch for.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've literally, I mean, talk about stumbling backwards. I stumbled backwards into that whole world because I was doing performance analysis for my clients.
Right.
Chris, this application is slow. Here's a capture. What's the root cause? While investigating root cause, I find some wonky conversation and I go, yeah, you guys are having very large conversations out to some interesting place. Are you aware of this? Is this something that should be happening? Oh, that's not happening. Okay, so the packets show differently. And so basically, you know, it's amazing the number of times while looking for something totally different, I've found indicators of compromise, threat traffic, just strange stuff that just shouldn't be there.
Wow.
So that's how I got into threat hunting.
Can we get a packets don't lie out of this?
I was doing threat hunting without being aware that I was doing threat hunting. I thought being a packet head, doing this professionally as a consultant, I thought, oh, to be a threat hunter, you have to be some advanced mastermind cybersecurity person.
But that's a really great point, because I'm just talking to some other cybersecurity people that I've had either on the show or just people I know. It's very similar in the sense that the basics is a low bar to entry. Like, if you want to get started doing that, you can. You don't have to be an engineer. You could get started right now, and they need a ton of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the knowledge gap to me that I've found, this is just from my chair. You know, I mean, there's a lot of chairs out there that aren't mine, but just from my chair, the gap in knowledge of fundamentals, networking protocols, you know, communications, the gap in knowledge in IT is large, right? Between network engineer to, you know, really being a packet person. That's a gap that, Jason, we've been trying to fill that gap the whole time. That's part of what we do, is to bridge the gap for network engineers. Oh, check out packets. They're cool. Blah, blah, blah. Cybersecurity is way wider. Like like what you need to know is, like, jumping over that gap is just tremendous. So, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't start, right? But there's just a tremendous knowledge gap there. So that's something that I'm also trying to work with organizations like DEF CON and, you know, going to RSA and even.
Yeah. You're right, because even the people who do sort of know enough stuff to want to have the desire to get involved with that, like, if you come entirely from the IT and sysadmin side of things, you may have never even looked at packet capture before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, not to say that that's just the holy grail of everything you need to know, because there's a tremendous amount of skill set out there, and there's people that can shred through, you know, log files and just do some insane analysis that I don't know how to do. So, hey, you know, but from a packet level, you know, I think understanding how things work at the packet level, and the big thing, when things look weird, and developing that sense, like that art, that wait, this right here doesn't look right, you know. And so helping people to develop that, and to ultimately making Wireshark a little less scary.
Right. That's our jobs.
That's our job. That's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do.
Cool, dude.
And it's fun.
No, I really appreciate it.
Too.
Yeah.
And for me, this is fun. It
is very fun, right?
Oh,
it
yeah.
really
like,
is. It really is.
This is great.
And that's what I find so interesting, because there are people like you. There's people like, you know, Tony, a bunch of other people who, like, literally, like, you guys have sort of just adopted this completely as your own, as this is what you want to do all the time, right? And it's like, there's a reason.
It's solving a puzzle. Like, when I get a PCAP and a problem description, like, hey, Chris, this is weird to hear. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, what, you know. And I mean, now in the back of my mind, am I going, ooh, you know, it's a imposter syndrome, right? Like, at first you're like, you know, ooh, do I know enough to actually do this? You know, and that dark little voice inside my head that says, you know, you're not enough. You're stupid. You don't know this. You know, it's like, you just got to quiet that voice and get started and go, okay, I don't know everything. And I'm very honest about that. I do not know everything, but there's certain fundamentals I do know. So I start there,
right,
and keep digging until I find something that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
You know, like if you wait till you know everything, you'll never start. Nobody knows
and that,
everything.
folks, is attention hyperdeficit disorder. No,
seriously.
All right, dude. Thank you very, very much. I feel like we should probably do this again. Maybe,
That'd be great.
either after the next Shark Fest or whether, and just kind of keep people up to date on this, because people need to understand, just how important this behind the scenes stuff is. I really, really am passionate about that.
Yeah, and also, maybe it's just as a future topic, just like, what is the pathway? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to do this, but how?
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. We should do that.
How do I actually get into this? And just to, a teaser for next time, we'll be talking about, please, if the listening audience, you haven't dropped by my YouTube channel, come check it out.
Packet Pioneer, by the way. Yep.
Yeah, Packet Pioneer is my company. The channel is under my name, Chris Greer. Or if you just search Wireshark, I'm not doing my job if you can't find me. So please just go check it out. Also, too, you'll notice on a lot of the links on my videos, you'll have a link to a Udemy course. I think you can buy it for like $10. It's hands-on. It gives you a bunch of pcaps and helps you to get started. And then a few other resources that I talk about. So that's what I'm out there doing. So if you want to learn packets and you want to make it accessible, make it less scary, and actually be able to use what you're learning quickly, that's my mission. So come find me, please, and let's interact, and of course, ask questions, engage with the community, and that's where you get started.
Cool. All right. Throw me all those links at the end, and I'll put them in the YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
And everything.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah. And in addition to that, if you are listening to this and you've gotten this far, please do go to Chris's channel and subscribe to his, and make sure you like videos and comment them, because the YouTube algorithms, that's how they work. And please do the same with Epik Mellon. If you've liked this and you have any questions for Chris, drop some comments in the thing. And above all, own the nerdy things that you love and have fun doing them. Thanks, dude.
All right.